Your factory may be connected for efficiency, but the connection may be already your biggest cyber exposure. The danger is not meeting OT, the danger is when connected without shared accountability. By the end of this conversation, leaders will know how to spot the first IT OT risk. Sorry. Uh, and build a practical first plan without disrupting operations. In India, manufacturing, digitization, smart plants, connected supply chains, and remote operations are creating new value but also expanding the cyber exposure of industrial environments. Globally, AI enabled operations, connected industrial platforms, and remote vendor access are making IT OT boundaries thinner, faster, and harder to defend. IT systems are built for speed and business agility. OT systems are built for connectivity, safety, reliability, and physical operations. With both environments connected without visibility, ownership, segmentation, recovery plan, and a normal IT incident can become an operational interruption. Today, we are joined by Dr. Ramkumar P. Harishankar Iyer to decode cyber risks hidden inside IT and OT convergence, and more importantly, what leaders must fix. Before we dive into the topic, let's have a small video about Power of Knowing Forum. Welcome to PREMINENT Conclave by Power of Knowing, where insights become strategic advantage. Let's welcome Dr. Ram Kumari and let's begin the topic. Good evening, madam. Welcome to our podcast, ma'am. How are you today, ma'am?
Good evening, team. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, ma'am. A small intro about yourself to the audience, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So, this is Ramkumari Harishankar Iyer from Bangalore. I have around 26 years of industry experience in cybersecurity, in IT, OT, AI, and a lot of privacy related principles, starting from GDPR to HIPAA to multiple other things. Been in Infosys, Wipro, TCS, IBM, Quest Corp, and currently in really skill consulting, uh, serving as a kind of a CIO and AI security governance director for my clients. I've been working in various cadres, starting from transition to service delivery to different kind of a consulting assignments. Um, have done ITIL, DevOps, DevSecOps transformations, and COVID-related governance. So governance, compliance, risk is a kind of a favorite passion topic for me altogether. And thank you for giving me this kind of an opportunity to talk about slightly insight on OT-related systems with respect to security. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you for that intro, ma'am. Let's begin with most important question. When IT and OT connect, where does the real risk begin, ma'am?
So we all know that in the typical industry levels, we have IT systems where most of the employees are literally working on it. And of course, there are a lot many segments today which has the kind of a OT related operational technology related systems, which is a key for our life sectors. But what happens is both are of different kind of systems. It cannot be compared as a single one. Um, Normally, IT comes for with respect to a lot of security related stuff. But when you talk about OT, the main important stuff is about kind of reliability as well as your availability part of it. Not only that, it also goes into the kind of a safety and security mechanisms of the physical systems. So the risk is there are a lot of weak connections with respect to OT where people do ignore it to a larger extent. Most of the places where I have seen it, I have done a lot of due diligence with respect to the OT sectors where it typically is a kind of an isolated and some of the things has been copied what they used to do with the IT security to the OT security, which doesn't really cater to the kind of needs of the OT segment. That is very important. Um, Organizations should have a complete the oneness about the kind of visibility, as you were typically mentioning. It's about visibility of the OT assets. See, not only the OT assets, any kind of a system, the assets are very important, and we need to have the visibility completely to the top board, to the every level of the organization when something comes in, and so that when we know about assets, each assets are related to a risk items, and that is how you will be able to risk mitigate the things. So that is really very important point to be noted in terms of risk mitigation by the leaders. Not exactly like what they do with IT. It should be specifically cautioned enough and look into how the OT systems risk will be different, because the risk management effect of operational technology is entirely different from what we do a risk management from IT. So that is really very important, and that caters to a larger things, because today the attackers are really going with a lot of OT system attacks, as a lot of things are not being in the place as a critical system, and there are so many insider attacks and outsider attacks also happening with that. So that's one of the key things which we need to do it.
Got
Yeah.
it, madam. Now, when IT and OT converge, what is the first cyber risk leaders usually fail to see, madam?
See, when typically the see one of the key thing with respect to the cyber related stuff is about that might be a lot of incidents. So incidents are to be taken into a higher authority, and second is incident has to be categorized and prioritized to a larger extent based on the kind of an impact with respect to it. So there are, I think, with respect to when it comes to the impact, it gives to the system. It's more with respect to the OT systems than with the IT systems. So you cannot treat both of the things as a same as kind of a thing. So when there is a data loss with respect to in the normal IT systems, I think within some hours you will be able to recover it, and you will be able to continue your normal operations with respect to that. But in OT systems, is really very difficult. Some of the parts you will not be able to really figure it out where the data loss has happened, where is the kind of a disruption, which equipment has failed. So typically, what happens in the today's generation is what they typically use for the IT. They normally extend that kind of a monitoring systems and other stuff to the OT systems, which doesn't work, because it has to be completely customized enough, so that there should be a high level of orchestration, telemetry, all this. The observability as a kind of a concept needs to be there, so that which takes the kind of a snapshot of the internal systems and gives back. And many of the OT systems in a lot of the power sectors and gas agencies and the stuff, there are a lot of field levels, which is a typical remote. So how you will get the kind of such kind of information from them is to the telemetry and observability is a kind of a concept, and which has to be fed into the common system, so that we know that which are the things going right, which are the things going wrong. Because one small thing failing in the kind of OT system, it leads to a bigger catastrophic kind of a thing, and it cannot be left out just like that. So many of the incidents, till the time the incident doesn't happen, it works fine. When the incident happens, it's going to be a bigger disruption in the kind of OT system. So that is one of the biggest thing that you have to be really monitoring it. It should not be reactive. It should be more proactive in the OT systems. Typically, when it comes to security, I think we are all thinking and moving towards proactiveness, and particularly in the OT system, it's very important for us to go towards the proactive and have the right level of event and observability monitoring to get the systems to be forecasted as a kind of a dashboard, and that will really help the leaders to find out what kind of a risk at any point of time.
Got it, madam. I think what you are saying is people should clearly demark what is IT and what is OT when you look
That's
at
very important.
manufacturing.
That's
That
very
is very
important.
important, and you don't carry the same devices from an IT segment to an OT segment because
But
the
in the
telemetry is
we talk about it, and that's a right principle to be followed. So when we do this kind of a due diligence acts and a gap analysis, that's a kind of a main non-compliance we normally give it to them, and also put as a kind of a corrective action for them to do it. So once that has been done across, then people try to do it with respect to different kind of a segmentation, and they follow that typical rules. But till the time they consider both the systems as same and try to do this, this is a kind of a mistake which is there in the real-time practical scenario markets.
thank you for that, madam. Now, coming to that point, why do IT leaders often assume as OT network can be protected using by the same tools and assumptions as an office network? Because I think what we are talking is that kind of a structure. When you look at it, is either some of the devices they only think about connectivity, right, ma'am?
Yes.
What is your take on it, ma'am?
See, most of the people see the OT is a OT segmentation, OT security, and OT network. It also requires a different kind of an understanding and awareness levels.
Mhm.
Uh, of course, the basic concepts we talk about, it's a confidentiality, integrity, availability with accountability, authentication, authorization, the AAA concept. But how it has been applied in both the systems are entirely different. So that is typically coming with some kind of an experience or some other different kind of an awareness level. So that is first thing which people have to really understand. And as I rightly said, the risk management exercise of IT and OT is entirely different, right? IT, I think we talk about the different kind of a controls with respect to it. In OT, people normally go ahead only with the connectivity. You're right, but that is not the only stuff. There are so many other things which comes to that. In OT also we have the authentication levels, the identity management plays a major role in it. So that really what kind of a privilege is being given to different kind of an assets, different kind of an attributes. So this is not visible at all. Okay, so if they see, if I go ahead and ask a kind of for a gap analysis, show me what are the things you have it. They give some kind of a diagram which is not even updated for quite long time. So the architectural level of the OT itself is slightly different. So that needs, if something else to be added or some other new things you have to bring into the table, I think the architecture needs to be updated across. So that's one of the key things. Second is about, I told about the awareness. The third thing is about the different kind of domain levels. One is the very basic stuff is about the identity management. So this identity management about the privileges, the role setups, all the different kind of an attributes, how it is coming to it. This is all very, very important because there might be lot of remote connections which will be connecting to the OT systems, and that all needs to be monitored through some kind of a tools which are explicitly managed for the OT systems, not with what you do it with IT. As I rightly said, I think most of these things works with a kind of an observability as a concept, not a basic alert management or monitoring. And that if you do it, I think possibly some of the key basic hygiene issues in the OT levels can be managed, and this can be corrected so that we will come out of many of the high level risk which will happen in the industry. There are many leakages which happens. People think about, okay, can somebody take over their power? Of course they can. So that is the biggest stuff in the OT systems. So today, anything and everything what we have it in our real life. So I think that has all been managed with the OT systems. Very important. And if something goes wrong, it's a highly hazardous and haphazard which will happen. It will interrupt the entire the lives of the people. You don't get many of the things. It gets disrupted. So that has to be differently monitored with a different kind of scenario stages, and that will really help us to mitigate the kind of risk levels and bring down the risk levels. See, risk cannot be made zero.
Hmm.
So in any of the systems, so risk can be brought down to a larger extent, and that is the kind of a main responsibility and role of an CISO or a CIO or who is the IT leader.
Thank you for that, madam. Now, coming to the next point, you were talking about incidents where everything is connected. So, where you are saying if a small mistake is done, there
Mhm.
could be a lot of issues. What changes when cyber incident moves from data loss to production disruption, equipment failure, or safety risk?
Yeah, so when a typical cyber incident affects the production or equipment, okay, so this is not only with respect to the cyber security levels when it comes to OT, it also affects the human safety because it's all mainly with the physical systems. So one of the key important things is about business continuity. Am I able to continue my business? Is
Hmm.
it getting disrupted at any point of time? Okay, and if it goes down, am I in a position to come back faster? So what is my resilience level? So that is one of the key issue which is there. This is entirely different from what you normally see in the IT levels, right? The impact will be shifting from protecting the normal data to protecting even the physical systems, critical infrastructure, and not only that, it's about all the human lives, because there are so many people who will be as a basic level workers who will be targeting and working on that. So safety and security comes more and more conscious and high critical level when it comes to OT systems, right? So therefore, enterprise typically thinks about there is a high level responsibility for the board to take care of many of these things, at least the basic things to be put across, have the kind of risk mitigation to be done across at every level. Uh, and when some data loss happens, as I told, it's very, very difficult and complex situation if it is in OT. So OT runs, okay?
Hmm.
Operational systems runs as it is. Doesn't get disrupted just like that, like how we normally see our laptops, which goes off with the kind of a blue levels. But at some point of time when it gets to the sets, I think it will take so much of time for it to come back, because people might not have done any kind of a readiness things. Maybe do they have the right levels of who all the skilled people available, where are the things, have they done any kind of a tabletop exercise? That's a far more story with when compared to the kind of OT systems. Even in IT systems, I think many of the companies are not ready with the resilience parameter and business continuity plans. So when it comes to OT, this is not at all there. So whatever I have seen, typically in the Indian structure, it's more and more missing, and people started realizing it. I think they feel that that has to be done, and then they take the advice levels and start putting the procedures, and they do start doing it. But it will take quite a longer time for us to bring across, because there are a lot of many legacy systems also there. The old systems might be there. Is it easy for us to replace all that? No. But you have to live with that, right? So how I have to do it? Of course, I have to do the risk management exercise very separately from that and try to see what I can do at any point of time. Just like the new systems, I cannot mitigate the things. It will take quite a lot of time. So what are the applications? Where are the dependencies? So what are the interfaces it's talking to? Where are the high level, low level data flows are there? To what remote sections it is all connecting? This is all very, very important when comes to OT systems in terms of security and safety, and that is how you have to really do it.
Got it, madam. So, what you are saying is the hardware, if you bring OT to the existing equipment, it may not be compatible with the latest ones, but these cannot be left out, is what you are saying. Those can be very critical. But if you want to change the interface, there could be some vendors who are not at all going to upgrade that because it does not work with the latest ones, right? So, I
Right.
think that
So
is one.
what they have to do it is, see, the feasibility study has to be done in a very, very accurate manner. That is
Mm,
one thing. Because as much as the requirements and the assumptions are validated, that will really help us to mitigate this kind of issues. That is the first thing. Second is, it will take a quite a longer time if you wanted to replace that kind of a systems. So that has to be done in phase wise, not in a big bang manner. If it
mm.
is a big bang manner, I think I will lose, and
Yeah.
many of my things will be down for months together, and which I cannot afford to. So, right, because many of my systems, many of my lives and other things is all been run by the typically IT is a kind of an enabler for OT. That's it. But OT is typically running many of other things, which is very, very important from the normal operational levels life also. So, which is very important. So, you have to be really taking care of each and every minute stuff, not leaving anything else. So, the orchestration is one of the good principles. Some of the I think you can do some kind of an orchestration, but if it is more than 20 years, then it will be slightly difficult. But orchestration is one of the good thing that if you connect to the main monitor dashboard, I think you know that where are the filters, what is going on, and how do I do it. So some kind of a proactiveness will be there, and you can really mitigate that kind of an issues at a faster rate.
Now, normally the when it comes to visibility part from a OT system, what is the first visibility question every CIO, CISO, plant head, or operation should lead should be asking this week? Because what could be that question?
See, the visibility question is about all the connected asset, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
that is typically missing. See, whatever they know about the things, maybe some kind of a SCADA, some sensors, uh, that kind of a things they might have it. But so the real time scenario is it's not being getting updated. See, when something is getting changed or added itself, because the attribute changes a lot in the OT systems. It's very important for people to understand, right? So that is one of the things you need to know who owns it. If
mm.
something goes wrong, whom to communicate, how it communicates with the different kind of a systems, with the upper level, lower level, the kind of a data flows, the flow diagrams, the data transaction levels. These are a couple of things, and what kind of a business or physical process it supports. So everything you need to know, then you can really determine what is the criticality, what kind of an impact it will give it, what is how I criticality and impact really gives you the kind of a priority of that particular incident, and also gives the priority to that particular asset as well, so that you will see that if this risk is associated with this asset, and if I want to replace, how much is the cost, and is it more than that, do I accept the risk or do I go ahead and change it. So that is how you can take a kind of a determination. That's very important. Without this kind of a levels on the connected devices, organizations will not be in a position to protect the systems, and that's a kind of a scenario today in the real time. And that really getting exposed to a lot of small cyber, if we really see that what kind of a cyber risk or threats is getting attacked to the OT, it might be very simple. But when it, because since the system itself is very complicated and it's not been monitored or it's not been taken in a proper operationalized manner, so it becomes more complicated when you are really going and troubleshooting it. If you are trying to do it on a regular basis, I think this is one of the very key and simple thing you can monitor and manage it.
What you are also saying is IT protects the information, OT protects the operations, right? And
Yes.
we can look at those scenarios in two ways. A compromised email account may affect production, but a compromised industrial control environment can affect uptime, quality, safety, or even the physical asset itself, right?
Yes.
So, looking at a remote support laptop connecting both corporate and email and plant controls. If the laptop is compromised, then the attacker may get a path closer to the operation system also, right? So that is what we are talking about. And uh, we need to also look at why asset inventory is very important at the first point, because what is an OT asset? You started with that point, right?
Yeah.
Where you said
Yeah.
what
Right.
is an OT asset and what would be the IT asset, right? And we also look at the inventory from a practical side. What is connected who owns it, and what does it control. So I
Correct.
think if we are able to bring that this one, and we are good in that, I think we have a better control of the IT OT
That
systems.
is a part of your asset management with configuration perspective, right?
Yeah,
And another important point which I wanted to bring it, not only bringing this effort, if you're trying to change something in the IT itself, I will tell that follow the change management process.
yeah.
And OT is very important because the small change, it disrupts a lot. So you have to really do the kind of a business impact of each and every attribute, every such kind of a thing, connected device where it is you are trying to bring it. For example, I am the sensors are connecting, and I wanted to change one particular sensor. I need to see I'm bringing a different kind of a sensor, whether the version is feasible, whether the thing is okay to do it. This will not disrupt other systems, because if there is some kind of a disruption or if it is not feasible, it can bring a different kind of a threat inside the organization, and it will just try to spread from the OT to IT. So that is how many of the OT system risk and threats are happening, not with the bigger attacks, with the smaller such kind of a loopholes. And this cannot, the micro level loopholes also cannot be left out in the OT systems, and that's one of the thing you have to be really careful about. Yeah, I'm not able to hear you.
Sorry. What we are saying is every unknown industrial asset is also a cyber risk waiting for a root, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we want to say. Now, coming, what should organizations fix first, madam? Asset visibility, network segmentation, remote access, or patching?
Okay. From my perspective, the asset is very important from the security and safety perspective. Even in any of these security with your take it, asset is very important. Without having an asset, I cannot go ahead with it. Okay. So then the configuration and change management process plays a very important role, because any and every changes, it impacts to the system. Then comes with your identity management. So how the roles and privileges are being put across, how each and everybody is trying to roll across in the play across in the kind of India system, and is that the right kind of a visibility is there for all the people. This kind of a controls is very important. Then comes, of course, the patch. Patch is also very important, because when we talk about patches, people tell that I am into n minus 2. So is it not okay? No, it's not okay. So typically n minus 1, at least it's a kind of industry standard benchmark that has been put across. And you also need to have at least some team members who will be advising or testing the new patches that is getting released. So when we are thinking that it is coming from Microsoft or Dell or such kind of a things, people will try to see that whether the patch is applicable for us, whether in my system, in my current environment, do I need to put this kind of a patch? Does it impact anything else? This kind of a things feasibility will be done, and they will give the report that everything is okay, so that you can raise the kind of a change request and do the kind of a patch management. The entirely, it is entirely different in the OT systems. It's very, very important. Just like that, see, for the patch testing itself, it takes quite a longer time, because there are almost 24 tests you have to undergo that. Because if at least if there are 10 tests, if it is not passing it for the OT systems, I think I cannot apply this kind of a patch, because the impact will be more and more higher. So that is also an important part, but that is not taken on the first level. So the first
Mm.
level is all about you have the visibility, you have the assets properly, then of course, how the connected devices are there. Do I have the event management, that is orchestration and other things being put across, at least to some extent. Maybe you don't cannot invest in tool, maybe at least run some kind of a scripts and you try to monitor it on a regular basis. That is at least to start with, right?
Yeah.
So whatever I'm telling as a control, I'm not telling that you have to necessarily bring the tools into it. It's good, it's really fantastic to have it, but at least start with some kind of a manual exercise or with some kind of a script exercise, so that you know that where are we, and how do we, I want to go to the next step, what is my milestone,
Mm.
how, if such kind of a things are coming, am I ready to
Yeah.
uh, uh, adhere to that? Am I ready to face that kind of instance? Can I bring back my system? How much my business continuity and resilience has been built across in my system? There's a couple of things has to be done on a routine basis so that we know that. So, and of course, the patch is also been given a importance. And it should be at least minimum n minus one kind of a patch to be there to have the kind of a latest compliance levels as per 62443 standard, ISA standard with respect to OT.
Got it. Now, how can leaders decide what comes first when all four areas look urgent?
Um, of course, for me, everything is urgent, right? And for my end user, see, this happens in all the kind of different incidents and other things. So if somebody is raising it, each and for every user when they are trying to raise it, I think it is an urgent for them.
Yeah.
But it depends upon how the kind of impact it happens to your system, right? So the impact analysis, the business impact analysis is very important to see that how you will cater to this, and that is one of the key exercise with the business leader has to do it. If four things are coming in and you have to really prioritize this, the business impact analysis has to be done across, which really caters to them to see that which one I need to do it. So most of the cases it thinks that I don't have the visibility of it. That itself is I have to really take care of it. This is the kind of a real time scenario because I've done couple of bigger exercises with respect to OT, and I've seen this. The systems of the asset inventory of IT as well as OT, not only with OT, even in IT, it's not updated. It's quite old, more than 1 year, which I will normally give us a kind of an non compliance non and a bigger kind of a learning exercise for them to go ahead and do it, and then they try to do it. So it's like a business impact analysis. If you try to do it, that gives you the kind of an urgency to make which is prioritized at any point of time.
Now, you said about patching, right? Where n minus one or n minus two is what.
Yes, yeah.
Now, we also look at some patches where you don't need all the patches to be applied, right? Now, why patching everything immediately is not always safe or realistic in OT environment?
See, it's really important to know that, see, the companies or the different kind of an attribute levels or the component level people from the different hardware manufacturers, because it's a combination of multiple things. People will release different kind of a patches for them to be updated. But how my system is being done across in my environment, what has it been used for, what kind of a business it is built there, how I have organized it, what kind of an architecture I have built with that, what is the kind of a design levels, this all matters a lot to the kind of a patching. That's the reason we normally tell that when the patching is released, you have minimum 14 days to apply this patch. So in this 14 days, you will try to evaluate whether this patch is needed or not. So that's the reason you don't really go ahead and apply everything together. See, in
Okay.
IT, if you apply that together, at least rollback is, to some extent, it is easier. But in OT, if you apply together and something goes wrong, it's not easy to roll back. So the
Mhm.
rollbacking exercise of the patching or any such kind of a changes without having a proper change record or anything else, it's really, really very tough in the OT environment because really relates to the kind of a complexity of the system that has been built.
Ma'am, we were talking about reduction of risk also at start of the this one, where how do you look at reduction, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I had to do a 30-day reduction plan,
Mm-hmm.
what does a sensible IT or sensible first 30-day IT OT risk reduction plan look like, ma'am?
Okay, so see, when it comes to risk, uh, for a stakeholder, okay, for a stakeholder, every risk seems to be very high for them.
Mm.
So for a CISO or a CIO who is typically seeing the kind of a systems, who understand the kind of a business, they can really try to categorize that kind of a risk into the different levels, right? So that is one of the key thing. Um, So again, it comes to the kind of an asset levels. It's very important because when we talk about risk in the security levels, it's all related with assets.
Mm,
So based on the kind of an assets categorization, the risk level also changes. Okay, if the asset level is very very critical, then risk level is high priority. If the asset is not that critical, it's a kind of a supplement for me. The risk level accordingly it falls. So that is really very important based on the criticality, what it is. It's a mission critical or a business critical kind of a component. If it goes down, can I run my system? Ask this question.
mm,
If I cannot run my system, if this particular component goes down, because if I see entire disruption is going to happen, then I have to mitigate it immediately, right?
mm,
The
mm,
rest of the other things, maybe it can wait for some time. There are people there are organizations who try to see that all the risks are accepted. It's really very wrong in the normal risk management scenario itself, in the risk management philosophy itself. See, there are certain risks you cannot do it immediately, but are you sensitized about it? Do you know that risks are there? And if something, some of this kind of things impacts, something will go down, and you are able to cater to that. You accept that there is going to be a downtime for that kind of a thing. Are you accepting all this? Do the stakeholders know about it? That's the reason maybe in security language, if you talk about technical, people don't understand. We always talk about in the business risk levels, so
yeah.
that people at least take that in a, if I'm talking as a, it's a high business risk, it's a low business risk, and give the some kind of a justification, people understand and immediately give you the right levels of money budget and other things to go ahead. But if you talk in the technical levels that this control I need to put it, this is how I determines and other stuff, people don't understand it. Then they will tell that no, no, you come afterwards, I have already given you budget. So that's the reason as a CISO's level, we normally convert that into a business language, mostly put it as a kind of a risk impacts and go to the business level. So typically it should be like, what are your recovery capabilities? Am I ready enough? Do I have people? Do I have the process? Do I have necessary things to run my show if something goes wrong? That is one thing. Then clear governance comes into place here. It's very important with the shared accountability between IT and OT. As IT is the enabler for OT, so you cannot demarcate completely because IT is the enabler of OT, right? So
Right.
then accountability lies there. There will be shared accountability. Somewhere it will be completely full responsible. Somewhere it will be accountable. Somewhere I just only have to consult them and take the necessary actions. That is very important. So success, typically the critical factors can be measured with respect to how much my systems are resilient enough. If it breaks down, can I bring it back? Or is there are some other backup systems which is available so that I can put it, so that I can run my show? Then that's about the kind of a recovery, kind of a capability that has been built across. And over a period of time, how I might be in a position to reduce this kind of risk from the top to bottom. So that uh, some of the things in many of the systems today level. So if you talk about the 25 years back and today's level, many of the systems come with their own BCP levels of the components.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it will be able to recover it, and that is typically from the chaos engineering perspective. But in the older systems, this is not there. So then that is given a higher priority of typically doing some kind of a recovery test and make some kind of readiness, at least to some, like, okay, I cannot do it in 10 minutes, but at least can I do it in 2 hours? Can I
Yeah.
recover something so that I'll be able to run my show? That itself is a good stuff, and that is where the process comes into picture. So you have to have some kind of written documents, make people aware of it. And in OT systems, the disaster recovery and the business continuity is very, very important. And you have to do the kind of awareness session then and there. Every 4 months, it's mandate for us to see this kind of a process readiness and people readiness and the system readiness, system feasibility, the risk management exercise. Everything needs to be done from the OT perspective to know where do I stand and what I need to do. So accordingly, the risk measures change. Sometimes it might be high. I can also bring it back after 4 months when I'm trying to do it. Something might have improved, or something
Mm.
might have deteriorated. So then it will go very high or it might go low. So that kind of things you have to really do it.
What are you also saying that OT system may run continuously, but use the older equipment or required maintenance windows have to be put, is what you're saying.
Yes,
The right starting point is usually understand assets and their connections before making a disruptive changes, is what you said, ma'am.
correct.
Manufacturing site has about 200 devices, but no one knows which device is connected to where. And to the internet, that is a bigger challenge, right? So if you say no,
When you really
which
go to
are,
the internet, I think the challenge increases a lot,
yeah,
right?
right.
But
What
of
are,
course, when it is connected to the IT systems, this should be an internet because otherwise it cannot communicate. That's
yes.
really important.
There are some unsupported devices also, right, which we are talking about, control
We
critical
have
assets,
it.
right. Before patching, the team needs to be having a reliable map, what can be patched, what will break if I patch, right. So that is a very important point, is what we are saying now. From a Indian standpoint, if you look at many industry Indian plants operate mixed environments, new connected systems. You started with that point also at the start of the point, where
Yeah.
some devices are there which you cannot replace. They are either there or they cannot be done changed at the moment, which takes a lot of effort. Besides older machines, they cannot be patched or replaced quickly also. You said some of the components you don't get it also, right, at the start
Yes.
of the point, right. So
Yeah.
you do not patch blindly. First know what can stop your operations is very important, is the takeaway that I take from that discussion. Now, one point that I want to understand also is, how does zero trust work in OT without affecting uptime and safety?
See, zero trust is about I don't trust things, right? That is where
Yeah.
the concept comes in, and it is entirely different when it comes to the OT levels because IT levels is slightly simple.
Mhm.
But in OT levels, in IT levels also we talk about the kind of an architecture changes, but in OT it makes a lot of difference in terms of it should not block the legitimate operations. That is one thing. You have to understand. See, in OT levels, another one important thing is about the different kind of zones. The
Mhm.
conduits which also have that. So that all couple of things comes as part of your internal in-depth of analysis of the segmentation and other things which goes into place. That's really very important. Am I having all this information readily available at any point of time, and that should be accurate. Information might be available, and if it is outdated more than 3 months, I will not take that because it might not be accurate. That is how in the entire IT field we normally consider across, right?
Mhm.
So typically, it's about continuously verifying and continuously validating and verifying. That is the thing. See, we normally talk about a testing. So today,
Mhm.
the testing has been completely renamed as verification and validation. That is really important, right?
Right.
So without disrupting the critical operations in the OT environment, if I'm able to verify this and validate this and have some kind of a reports and try to regenerate this kind of reports on a regular basis to see that what kind of an improvement I have brought in, or I need to bring it to the table as a kind of a corrective action. This really helps me to control the kind of an environment. One is about the controlling the communication between different kind of devices using secure network segmentation rather than only the user authentication. User authentication is very important from the identity management, but network segmentation plays a major role when it comes to OT levels. Okay, so that is another important goal that you need to keep in mind. The main goal is, I think there are a lot of attackers today typically wanted to go ahead and block
Yes.
or
Yes.
do any kind of a hazardous thing to an OT environment than an IT environment today. So that is typically you have to be proactive enough to see that how I'm going to maintain a safety, secured, and agile environment. Okay, that is the key stuff. And another important concept is, if I'm trying to put some kind of a process and controls, is it reliable? The
Mhm.
controls, whatever I put it across, it need not to work perfectly in all the places. So that also needs to be tested, validated, and verified before I apply that kind of a control. Otherwise, it can be deferred, right? So that can be put in the kind of a risk register, and I'll tell that maybe after a month I will put it because I'm trying to do the kind of a testing stuff. Successful implementation is about all the different access controls, which typically matters to the identity management. I have talked about monitoring plays a very important because a lot of remote connections, so many things are not even connected. Then you
Yeah.
have get this information through telemetry and observability as a kind of a concept to find out where exactly it is coming in. Then typically about safety validation and verification is very important from this perspective, and that is what means a zero trust in the OT environment, not an very simple of just changing the architecture you maintain a zero trust in the OT.
Got it, madam. Now, as we are talking about zero trust,
Mhm.
what does zero trust mean in a plant, factory, utility, or warehouse, or an industrial environment?
So, in a plant or a warehouse or any kind of an industry levels, zero does it doesn't mean that a kind of a not having an authentication and authorization. It's more than that. Okay, so I am not going to trust even the physical bodies, physical elements that has been connected, inflows that is coming in,
Mhm.
the kind of a data transaction that has been allowed across, the communication that has been done across. See, the architecture level with respect to the OT is generally different,
Mhm.
typically than the IT levels. So it's much more very in depth, clearer kind of a demarcation needs to be done across with
Mhm.
respect to the different zones, different things which is getting connected across. Because one small it might be very very simple for a normal man to understand, but it becomes a big hazardous. It stop the entire operations altogether. So that is the reason typically people talk whatever we put it across in other areas, it might not be same as in the OT. So today in the OT, it's not only normal OT. OT environment also tries to take AI into it. It's really
Yeah.
going to be very complex, right? Because AI already, the AI risk management is a different kind of an exercise. You normally try to bring it because of the various algorithms and the different kind of a layers that is operating. I think it brings a different kind of a threats than the normal things which we normally do it. So then granting the access, ensuring that every digital connection is completely authorized, authenticated. So that access register plays a very important part that you need to do it. I talk about asset register. Now, as a access register comes a very important part for this kind of a factory elements and other things. So I was doing for the chemical industry factory in uh, Tamil Nadu. So when I was trying to do it, I found their access register with respect to OT systems was completely missing. People doesn't know but
Okay.
what are the things being done across, and some other information is being gathered across in your SCADA monitoring dashboard. And one particular thing I picked up and I asked why this system is showing us a kind of red. That time they tried to go ahead and find it, and many of the other systems is not working. That's the reason at particular point of time something was down for more than 6 hours. They came to know,
Okay.
right? So this things why it is coming in because I think it's a lack of awareness, lack of workshops. That is one of the key things because it's not like a normal your small network devices or different kind of things which is there in the IT systems. The components that is all comprised the kind of OT is generally very different. So that itself people have to understand if I'm going to first secure it. So first of all I need to know what kind of a system is going to be, how it is comprised of, what are the different elements it comes, what are the attributes it has, what type of a properties it's trying to do it. This basic stuff is very important as an awareness for them to really go ahead and secure it. So that is typically missing in this environment, and that's what 62443 talks about. I think uh, try to do a kind of a segmentation as zones and conduits. It really helps you to do it. So they also have given in the website itself. They have given a kind of a plan of action today, so that you will be able to do a typical isolated zones. That is one thing. Controlling the communication paths. I wanted to know the communication of where it is all going. Okay. Then another thing is it's a different kind of a protocol that it works with a kind of an encryption and OT levels and the IT levels. So that right encryption mechanism has to be followed so that you will be able to protect your information. That's another third thing which you need to do it. Then preventing any kind of a lateral movement. That is, that if there is a bad actor or some kind of a breaches that has already happened in the IT network, and typically it is getting connected with the OT at the back end. I think I first wanted to segregate that so that it will not come into the OT environment. That's the first thing I will try to do it so that I'll prevent some kind of lateral movements into it, because here it's slightly okay, but there it becomes more complex when it goes into the system, right? So if you are trying to do all those things and re-architecting, so architecture plays a major role as it is very, very entirely different and it's complex in nature. If some different elements you are trying to put it, or you are changing it, you are changing the layers or communication mechanisms, everything needs to be documented, and the new architecture designs has to be done across, and it has to be propagated to all the people who's working on it so that people are aware of what is the latest one and how do it communicate. If this such kind of a things are being done across, I think to almost 70% of zero trust kind of an mechanism or a framework you can implement. You cannot implement even 90% in OT environment. You can only implement to a level of 70%.
Got it, ma'am. Ma'am, as we are on top of the hour, I would like to say a few things on what we spoke about. Zero trust does not mean automatically trust the user, device, vendor, or connection just because it's inside the network. So
Right.
that's the point that I would like to say. With this, I would like to summarize what we have been discussing for the last 40 minutes now. Just give me a second. I'll bring up. There are few questions before that we start. I am just bringing those questions onto the screen. I'm just copying and pasting it, which I've got it into our dashboard here, ma'am. Just
Okay.
let me do that. So the first question that I have is this one. So I'll bring it up here. Question is, what is your organization's biggest IT OT cyber blind spot today? That's the question that I have.
So I have already spoken about it. So it's about mostly the first thing is about not having a visibility of your right assets into the place, or it's a accurate assets into the place, because that's a kind of a blind spot. And if you don't know that particular thing, you cannot continue with respect to the different kind of a domain levels, different kind of a security controls, or doing a kind of risk management and prioritize that. So if that has been corrected and you are able to tackle to almost to a 90%, I think many of the other issues will fall in place and you will be able to mitigate that over a period of time.
I have another question which has come up, which is, what is the only industrial asset you would never allow to have uncontrolled remote access?
What is one industrial asset you would never allow to have uncontrolled? I think I don't see that any kind of an industrial asset, one particular thing. I think every industrial asset, the kind of a blocks of a particular asset is very, very important in its own nature, right? So that is what I have seen. So if you wanted to do that, you cannot generalize this. This
Yeah.
is based on a different kind of a situations or the domains or the kind of an industries that is being operated. So the first thing is, do you know the kind of an asset attributes that makes a kind of a block of particular industrial program altogether? So that is first thing. Second, do you know the kind of a criticality and impact and urgency that it provides to it? And then you will tell that, okay, if this has a lowest priority, then probably okay if I don't have a proper access. But most of the places where it is very important that at least I will have controlled or related things, because as a security person, I will not admit any kind of an uncontrolled remote access into my environment, because at some point of time it can trigger a different kind of a threat which can come into it.
Got it, madam. Ma'am, with this, I would take some of the key pointers that I understand from what we've discussed. IT and OT convergence become dangerous when no one knows what is connected, who owns it, and what it controls. That we spoke in the first two, three pointers that we started off with. We also start with visibility, build a reliable inventory. You said which are the inventories that can be patched, what cannot be patched, what is that if cannot be upgraded also, because that is an old system that you cannot, and that becomes a critical asset also, right? Build reliable inventory for critical OT assets, connections, remote access, and vendor dependencies. Now few vendors also come with that kind of a dependency where their systems are still old, but you need those vendors to be part of it, right?
Yes, of course.
Segment, yeah. Segment critical systems, reduce permanent vendor access, and test recovery before an incident tests you, because every equipment that you are going to bring it down for maintenance has to be tested before it can be brought down also, is what as an
So
important.
today you don't mention as a tested because it should be validated and verified. That's a very good scenario to be
Okay.
talked upon. Because see, you might have some kind of an actual figure,
Hmm.
and when you're trying to do the kind of a validation, it typically comes into the kind of a range. That's the
Okay.
reason we don't use the testing word. We use the validation word.
Okay, got it, ma'am. Board should demand operational evidence, critical asset visibility, control access, segmented progress, and recovery confidence. That you told in one of the pointers where you said segmentation becomes a priority where everything has to be segmented, right? So these are the pointers that I have, ma'am. Any final pointers before we conclude the session, ma'am?
Okay, so you have already given a kind of a conclusion. So people have to really understand the OT systems are the kind of a bigger critical components of today's life environment. Also, there are
Hmm.
many things without the OT systems it doesn't run, and IT is such a kind of an enabler for OT. OT is not running with the manual stuff today. I think it's all been enabled by IT. So, but how it communicates with the IT and other things, it matters a lot. So, this a prerequisite that somebody has to really put it across as a kind of a proactive nature rather than the reactiveness. So communication channels become a major role into it. Awareness is very important because today why people doesn't go into the OT levels because lack of awareness, security concepts into it. Unless and until you know the kind of a building blocks and attributes of the OT systems, you will not be able to put the right controls into it. So then, if you don't know this and putting some kind of a controls, it might hinder or interrupt the entire business operations. It will bring everything down. So that kind of a caution has to be taken when you are operating with the OT levels. OT level, as such, when you talk about it, it's a very complex in nature. But of course, when you understand and take it or maintain it with very diligent manner, I think over a period of time, this becomes a very kind of a simpler exercise. That's what normally we tell any such kind of a gap and the control actions being done across. Start with something very simple and try to get the things done. Okay, people are really suffocating with zones, network segmentations, and kind of communication channels mostly when they talk about OT, and that is the place where it also leverages a lot of time of us to get into it. And uh, architecture levels, if anything gets changed, it's really very important that you redesign the architect level from the OT perspective. You cannot leave it. Keep it accurate, keep it always very simple in nature. The process needs to be put across and well educated to the people who is operating. Another important thing is there are many systems, as I talked about. It's all unconnected, it's all field operations, it's all remote related stuff. We talk about I don't want to give a remote connections, but okay. But how do I know that the systems are working and this is also sending the data? So that is through the kind of an observability as a concept. It's very important. So event management and monitoring, as such, we talk about with observability as a concept, is the main thing that you have to take it. If such kind of small critical hygiene parameters, if you are trying to do it, at least to a larger extent, you are able to maintain the security and safety of the OT systems in accordance to the IT levels, so that the propagation of the risk of IT will not enter into OT.
Thank you for that, ma'am. With this, I think, thank you for joining us today, ma'am. It's been great having you and giving us the perspective. And thank you for making this complex topic practical. Real message is very clear. IT/OT convergence is not automatically a problem, but unmanaged convergence is. So that's what we wanted to say. And with this, we would like to conclude our session for today. And thank you, audience, for joining, and thank you for joining, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.